Some of you know I had kids pretty early, a lot earlier than a lot of my friends, and so they would call me a decade later, and when they had babies with problems, the babies would be screaming and crying, and they'd say, "What's going on?" And I always had all the right answers, the pat answers: overstimulation, take them to a dark bathroom, sing the third verse of Mull of Kintyre, they'll be fine. And all the pat answers always seemed to work. And then I remember at my oldest son's graduation party, a mom came who had lost a son a couple of months earlier. There are no pat answers for that. There are no easy answers for that. There's no, "Oh, you're going to be better. He's walking with you." Right? That's why I think this next book is so important for so many parents. And unfortunately, I go to reunions. I have friends who have lost children. And I remember telling that mom, "You should read a book I'm reading right now," Joan Didion's book on losing her husband and daughter, Year of Magical Thinking. We interviewed her on the show about that. I've got a new book that I think will help so many people going through grief. And it comes from an actor, Rob Delaney, who made a career out of making people laugh. But in 2018, the comedian and his wife were dealt an unimaginable tragedy. After a 2-year battle with brain cancer, the couple's son, Henry, passed away just a few months shy of his 3rd birthday. The loss would monumentally change Delaney's outlook on life, allowing the rest of the world to fall away, revealing only the things that mattered to him most. And we're really honored to have Rob with us right now. He's the author of the new book called A Heart That Works. It's about his personal journey with grief and love after Henry's death. And it wasn't just Henry's death. You and your wife went through so much in like a year and a half. You found out your beautiful boy had cancer. You found out that your brother-in-law, who was it sounded like it's just the most beautiful human being. He would light up a room. Yeah. He fought depression, hospitalized himself twice. Your son's cancer came back. Your beautiful brother-in-law committed suicide. Your own son died. Yeah. And I loved how you said you and your wife, when you'd come together and you'd break down or she'd break down, no pat answers.
Yeah.
No, it's going to be all right, honey. You just sit there and listen.
Yeah.
Well, try to bring us into that.
Sure. I'm smiling and because I just saw on the monitor these beautiful pictures that you showed of Henry. So immediately, that's such a wonderful beginning to my day. So I miss him desperately, but those photos, my God, they make me so happy to look at him. I mean, couldn't you just, why don't we do maybe a 15-minute slideshow instead of me talking? He's so beautiful. To answer your question, yeah, words have limited value when things this awful happen, but love in the form of touch and presence and deeds has immeasurable value. So people will say, like, "Hey, what should I say?" And there's no answer to that. There's nothing you can say. There's no words. I don't care how many advanced degrees you have or how many books you've written. There's no words. But sitting there, overpowering your friend who's lost a child and pushing them out of their home and locking the door behind them and making a mediocre casserole and cleaning their kitchen, that is unbelievable, and we had friends who did that for us, and we were very lucky to know some other people who had lost kids who helped us more than I can say. So other bereaved parents in that community are a big, life vest for us as we navigate all this. Yeah.
It's interesting. You had told Gail the other day that don't believe the old expression that you can't polish a turd, because you did with this book.
Absolutely.
You had a publisher that said, "Rob, I want you to write this book." And you're like, "No, you don't." You're like, And so you wrote this angry screed, you said, the first time through. But then you went back and edited it. But it's so interesting when you read this book, and even I've been following you on your book tour because I've been so moved by this. You talk about love a hell of a lot more. And it started, at the beginning when you were writing it, you described the anger, the pain, and there's still that anger, and then there's loss, but that is, even looking at his pictures, sort of moving into love as well. And it's a beautiful mix, isn't it? For this book, for readers, for you.
Well, so it was quite a journey for me, because in the beginning, I mean, early after his death, I would have this fantasy that I would walk down the street that we lived on with a baseball bat, which would have been hard to get because I live in London. But I wanted to walk down the street with a baseball bat, smashing windshields until the police came, and then charge the cops and just see what they did. That's what I really felt like doing. That seemed like a good idea at the time. And I talk about stuff like that in the book because I think it's a nice thing to do for people who've been through horrible tragedy. It isn't like, my book has no bromides in it. It has no prescriptions. Yeah, there's a lot of love in it, but I was adamant that any hope people got from the book was through observing my family through our journey. Not because I said, well, you know what? After a while, I noticed the sun coming up again and heard none of that. There's raw, unvarnished pain in this book, and I thought that was the best thing that I could do. And then gradually, maybe slowly, stutteringly get better in some ways and remain damaged and sad, as well. I figured that was the best thing I could do with the book.
I want to read just a portion of you talking about why you wrote the book that encapsulates that well. And if we could, Wex, show pictures while we do that to make Rob smile. Henry, why do I feel compelled to talk about it, to write about it, to disseminate information designed to make people feel something like what I feel? Done properly, it will hurt them. Why do I want to hurt people? And I do. Did my son's death turn me into a monster? That's certainly possible. It doesn't sanctify you. Things get broken. Maybe it's because I write and perform for a living. I can't help but try to share and communicate the biggest, most seismic event that's happened to me. The truth is, despite the death of my son, I still love people. I genuinely believe, whether it's true or not, that if people felt a fraction of what my family felt and still feels, they would know what this life and what this world are really about. Mm-hmm. You talked about it being like living on a lunar colony, just in another world from the rest of your friends.
Yeah, for sure. But let's go back to the pictures. I feel bad. All those pictures are before he got sick. I should have sent you some. I mean, there are pictures online if people would like to see, but because he's quite young in those pictures, and he lived till almost 3. And after the surgery to remove his tumor, they damaged some cranial nerves to remove the tumors. And they did a great job on the surgery, but there's no choice when it's really wrapped around that stuff. So he had Bell's palsy on one side of his face. So it was really funny. Whenever he smiled, you could see you could like exactly measure how much he had smiled, because the rest of his face was slack. And he just had the most beautiful smile. So shame on me for not providing you pictures of when he was older, because he was beautiful in a very different way than with all his little, imperfections that made him beyond perfect.
And you can see some of those in the book too. So Rob, you wrote something in the book that jumped out at me because it's the way I feel, and I was happy to hear you say it about people who've gone. You said someone close to you dies, he's gone, yes. Then the crazy part is he is here. He's in your heart, and there are literally molecules of him, farts and dandruff and exhalations all around us, and we are breathing them. How crazy is that? So the farts aside, unless you want to get into that, but that person never really leaves. You look at the smile he brings to your face at the sight of a picture.
Yeah, it's very weird, because if I could push a button that would bring it back, I would destroy the button with my forehead smashing into it, but I can't. But our relationship has changed. It's something different. It's more mysterious. Oh, thank you. Look at him there.
There we go.
Turtle. Oh gosh, with his big brother. Oh. Come on. Look at the love in his face. I mean, that's right. That's the day we found out he had a tumor right there. Look at those red cheeks.
He's
thank
a
you.
Beautiful boy.
Super producer. Can we need maybe some award? Is there an award for speedy producer? Thank you for that. So, yeah, your relationship with the person changes, and I don't know what it is. It's not my job to know. I can't map that constellation of wonder and mystery. I don't know what it is. But, of course, I still have a relationship with him. I have 3 other boys, you know, and Henry still receives 25% of my parenting energy, even though he's dead, you know. I still talk to him. I still carry him and feel him. I see him in my wife's face and in his brother's faces. So, yeah, I mean, it's desperately sad. I'll go cry about him when we're done, but I'm a professional and, you know, I've got to deliver the package here. But, yeah, he's still my baby boy and I'm his dad.
You mentioned
forever.
You mentioned your wife, and you write a lot about her in your book. And you say, "Yes, I'm the one who's writing the book and telling the story, but most of this is her story. She gave birth to him. She breastfed him. She was with him at appointments when I was working.
Yep.
How is she doing?"
She's doing okay. It's weird because I'm on TV and she's not. And so I do chafe when I hear like Rob Delaney's son, you know, and he's not my son, he's our son, you know. So I think she's happy I wrote the book. She helped me with it immeasurably. And I think she's happy it'll be out there for other bereaved parents and people who can use it. But right now, getting it out, it is painful because somebody came up to us the other day, came up to me and didn't see that I was with her and was like, "Oh, I love your book." And I immediately was like, "Well, this is Henry's mommy," you know, and I like made them talk because, you know, I'm a big clown on the show. And so that's weird and like a stressor for us right now because it's important for the world to know that, you know, he's her son. You know, he's my son too, but he's her son. He was her son before he was my son.
And you write beautifully about her in the book.